Hey, good afternoon. Happy Friday, everyone. Josh of Severe Weather. Thank you for joining me. We continue to track dangerous tropical storm Sara for Central America, and this is something we still need to watch in the United States next week, albeit not a threat to be a direct strike as a stronger system. We will still have some remains and maybe even a post-tropical system heading towards Florida towards the middle of next week that could bring some heavy rain and gusty winds with it. But my main concerns here are through the weekend across Central America. We've got some tremendous rain falling right now, and unfortunately, a system that's just crawling west. Right now, it's stuck in an area where it can't move very quickly. And so we're going to see rain piling up across portions of Honduras, as well as heavy rain across El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, and southeastern Mexico, on the order of locally 2 to 3 feet of rain, which can cause devastation with mudslides, with massive flooding, on the order of similar to what we saw with Hurricane Mitch back in 1998, albeit this will be a weaker system as far as the wind goes. So the storm is continuing to scrape the coastline right now near the Bay Islands, including Roatan, and that is going to eventually take a bit of a right move and move towards Belize this weekend with landfall expected here sometime on Sunday. After that, the system should pick up some speed, but it will weaken across the Yucatan Peninsula and will likely be a tropical depression and possibly even a remnant low as it enters the southern Gulf of Mexico early next week. However, as it moves farther north and east, the jet stream will pick it up, and we could see a little bit more re-intensification. And the Hurricane Center is not yet picking up on that part of the forecast. They say it's possible, but it's not in their forecast. So got about a 50-50 chance this does still impact Florida as some sort of a post-tropical or subtropical system, and a chance that it links up with a front. But either way, that rain is coming. It's better than what we saw, though, earlier this week when most models had this system coming up over western Cuba or the northeastern tip of the Yucatan and getting very strong, spending a lot more time over water. But here's the challenge we have here. So this is where the system is centered. It's basically right along the coast. It just does not have a spot where it can intensify quickly because of that proximity to land. And the mountains that are across portions of southern Honduras are sending some drier air up into the eastern part of the system. And as a result, it is just going to maintain its intensity. It may strengthen a tiny bit here later today into tonight and tomorrow as it moves up into this spot here northwest of Honduras and northeast of Guatemala, but unlikely to strengthen rapidly at this point. A couple of days ago, the models had it going back out into this area here between Honduras and Jamaica, and that's where it would be likely a stronger system than what it is now. So it's large, but it's disorganized. We've got a lot of rain hammering these areas, and because that track is super slow, we're going to see rain falling for hour after hour after hour here across portions of Honduras. We are going to see very heavy rain moving into Belize and also across the Quintana Roo state here, which includes Cancun, Tulum, and southeastern portions of the Yucatan Peninsula, Cozumel as well. Here's a look at the visible image for you all to be able to just kind of see what's going on here under the hood. And you can see here just a very broad system at this point. It's just not going to intensify until it tightens up and develops a core. And the challenge we have with that is that it is too close to land. So a big rainmaker, a bit of a wind maker, but really nothing worse than that. And even though my thoughts and prayers are with everybody here in Central America, that is obviously much better news for those of us in the Gulf of Mexico states. So here's a look at what the European is showing, our chance for a tropical depression here. And you can see here a little bit of a westerly shift into the Bay of Campeche, and then a big right curve and a small chance that this system could still have some tropical characteristics, or at least winds that are at that level, maybe scraping the coastline of southeastern Louisiana here Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday night, and then moving towards northern and central portions of Florida during the day Wednesday. After that, the system will lose some punch. We may looking at, well, let me take that back here. So this feature out here is not going to be tropical, but it will be a gusty storm moving to the north and east of Bermuda. Now, what we do see is that the possibility of a tropical storm is still out there. It's not great, 20% that this system could have tropical storm characteristics and winds at that level. And this is just winds over 40 miles per hour. It may not even be tropical due to the cooler water that's out there, due to the jet stream interaction, but it may produce conditions that are similar to a tropical storm here over the northeastern Gulf of Mexico. The time frame is Tuesday into Wednesday, and then as the system crosses Florida, it merges with a front, and we don't see that threat carrying past the Space Coast or northeastern Florida. As far as hurricane chances, we just don't see that at this point. If we move this along here, there's just nothing to support that occurring. Looking at the single day forecast, you can see here, even though the Hurricane Center is killing this off here, there's still a 40% chance this could be a tropical depression. I know the waters in the Gulf are cooling off, but they're still warm enough to support something tropical. So I don't think we can completely kill this system off as it moves through the Yucatan. I think there's still a chance it could try to reemerge and maybe re-strengthen a little bit. Not a lot. But you can see here by Wednesday, it's not that great a chance. And by Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, there's really nothing at that point to really stress about. We'll have to watch Panama, Costa Rica, Colombia here. Maybe something weak tries to spin up the very last week of November, but that, in my opinion, is not going to be a longer-term threat, and it's not going to be something we have to stress about in the United States. So here's the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center. Let me refresh this. I think we have a new one. I guess not. And you can see here, very close to the coastline, moving over very warm water, but interacting with the coast. And as it pulls away to the west of Roatan and heads north and east of Guatemala and closer to Belize, it could strengthen a little bit here. But the likelihood of that happening is low this afternoon, evening. It probably wouldn't happen until Saturday. And it's possible the system could be strengthening right up to landfall in Belize here sometime on Sunday morning or Sunday around midday. Very similar, actually, to what we had here a few weeks ago with Nadine. That system, though, did not develop as quickly, but Nadine did get its act together very quickly as it came into Belize, and that was that. But that one turned southwest and it headed into the Pacific and interacted with what ended up being Christie. This system is turning northwest due to the fact that it's coming around an area of high pressure and will get picked up by a trough that's going to move in this direction here. So that's going to take this system off to the north and east, may actually make a more severe turn to the right. So we do have some marginally warm water in here we need to keep an eye on. If this system comes back into this area here, it's not that it doesn't have a chance, it's just not a very good chance. So I don't want to give up on that chance. I know people here are pressuring me to give up on it. I'm not going to do that because, as I'll show you in a minute, some of our models do support a little bit of a regeneration here. It's not a great chance, but it is nonetheless a chance. Here you can see the Hurricane Center forecast. We have a tropical storm warning extending from the Nicaragua-Honduras border all along the entire Caribbean coast of Honduras, the entire Caribbean coast of Guatemala, which isn't much of one, and then for most of Belize at this point. And I do think it's possible we may need to see this extended northward all the way up to maybe Chetumal here in Mexico. We'll have to see about that. Right now, I'm not expecting there to be a tropical storm watch or warning for the Gulf side of the Yucatan, Campeche area, but we'll have to see about that. But the Hurricane Center is done after Monday, 6 a.m. I think they're done with the season. They don't want to continue this chance. I'm going to show you some models that disagree with that. Now, the SHIPS is not one of them. The SHIPS does think this could get to a Category 1 as it comes into Belize, but that may be a little bit too aggressive. You can see there is heat content, there is moisture in place, and the water temperatures are very warm. This is about 85 or so degrees Fahrenheit. That's still pretty warm. Wind shear is still pretty low, but the challenge is the land interaction at this point. And you can see with the relative humidity coming down a bit, that is a product of downsloping, drier winds coming in from the mountain ranges of Central America. So today's ensembles haven't shifted much from yesterday's. A little bit of a westward shift here in the medium range here next Tuesday, but you can see the turn comes back to the right. So more than likely, this portion of Florida would get whatever's left of this system during the day on Wednesday. So Big Bend, Tampa Bay, West Coast, basically. You can see here our tropical models. These are the latest ones from this afternoon, all hinting at this going into Florida, whatever's left of it, that is. Only a couple of exceptions here, the UK Met and a couple of others that basically kill it off in the Bay of Campeche. But you can see there's still a decent amount of consensus at this point. Now, a few days ago, there was consensus that it was going to go this direction and then come up in here and come out this way with somewhat of a spread in that. So consensuses can still change. But at this point, I think we're pretty locked in on what's going to eventually happen. That's the good news. Here's the GFS ensemble. And aside from maybe a piece of this trying to break off, go this direction, which I don't think is too likely, you can see, generally speaking, one of two possible ideas. One is it comes up towards the Panhandle or the Big Bend. The other is that it comes into Tampa, but it's not very strong if it does either. So that's the good news there. Here's the Canadian ensemble. Again, I don't know what's going on down in here. This is extremely loopy, but I'm laughing at it because there are some ensembles that just have a mind of their own, but I think we got to look at the trend here and where the average of everything is. Interestingly, the Canadian shows a little bit more of a chance for this to affect southeastern Louisiana, but really it's not something we need to be super concerned with at this point. Now, the intensity forecast is pretty well behaved here. Generally speaking, this will be a tropical storm until it moves into Central America in this time frame in here. That puts us at Sunday night and Monday. And half of our models bring it down to tropical depression intensity. That brings it into the white area here. That's TD. But half of our models keep this as a tropical storm. It's a weak one compared to where it is right now up in here, but it's weaker. But you will see once we move into maybe next Tuesday into Wednesday, the majority of our guidance does bring this back to tropical storm intensity. It may not be tropical, but it's got the wind that would support that. So that's something we have to keep an eye on if we're in the Gulf of Mexico. Again, we don't think this is going to be a hurricane again, and probably won't be at all, but it may get close to it here before it hits Belize, so we do need to watch that. Here's the GFS, giving you an idea of where the system is going. The GFS kills our system right in here. There's nothing left. You can see there's a bit of a front, a boundary right in here. This is Tuesday, but take a look at this. It does try to reform whatever's out there into a weaker system here near Tampa Bay on Wednesday morning. It's just ahead of our front, so it may not qualify as a named system at that point, but it's still going to have an impact. And then the front just overtakes it here, and there's nothing left to write home about by the end of the week. It'll be a lot cooler and drier over the weekend here, next weekend, not this one, but the following weekend. Then things should gradually warm back up towards Thanksgiving. You'll see there may be another buildup of moisture here at the end of November, beginning of December. And at this point, it might be a stretch to get anything to form, but we'll have to keep an eye on this area in the Caribbean. It's not going to be in a favorable MJO phase, but there will be a lot more rain down in here, probably for Jamaica and Haiti as well, and for adjacent parts of Central America and even northern parts of South America. Here's what the GFS is showing as far as wind speeds. And again, nothing super impressive. You can see a little bit of a buildup here on Tuesday morning, and then Tuesday afternoon towards the Panhandle and Big Bend, Tuesday night approaching the West Coast, and then it weakens quite a bit. We'll actually maybe have more wind on the backside of our front than we will out ahead of this. So I don't think we're talking about a damaging storm as far as the winds go. Here's a look at Florida just to give you all an idea here. Quiet this weekend, getting breezy on the coast here for Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday night. Mainly the Panhandle, and then eventually for the West Coast and Bay Area here. Storm surge, probably not going to be a big deal at this point unless this system tries to regenerate and do it quickly, which I don't think happens. So that's the good news out of it. Let's look at some tropical models. I want to show you the structure of this storm and how it's going to play out here. So you can see dry air near the center of the storm today, but moist air all around it. A little bit unusual to see that, but over time, as this pulls away from land, you can see it goes over the Bay Islands tomorrow morning. It's probably not going to strengthen much, but it will get a little bit more moisture in play here as it hits Belize. So there could be a little bit of a period where this system, once it gets out of this area where it's stuck now, once it comes up into here, it could try to strengthen again into maybe a stronger tropical storm. Belize City, I believe, is up in here, so it's going to come pretty close to, actually, I take that back. Belize City is right here where this system's probably going to be making landfall within 20 miles of that city. As it heads inland, you'll see there's still a lot of moisture in place. Now it weakens. We probably have a tropical depression at this point. And then as it heads into the Gulf, the air is a lot drier. But the HWRF says, I don't care that the air is dry. We still have enough of a symbol of a system here, and we have an increasing jet here where this could try to re-strengthen as it comes closer to South Louisiana. And in particular, you see this moisture buildup Tuesday night, Wednesday morning south of the Panhandle. We may see one last little burst here before the front overtakes it on Wednesday. So it's going to be close. Here's the wind forecast here. Again, nothing super impressive until we get to Saturday afternoon and Saturday night near Belize. And then weakening significantly over land. It may barely be a depression. But you can see here there's some stronger winds here south and east of the center here due to that jet stream interaction Tuesday night and into Wednesday. And part of this is front related as well. So we could see gusty winds mainly just off the coast. But the halves model, this one isn't super strong in the short term. It's still tropical storm intensity, but it gives it a better outcome as it moves into the southern Gulf of Mexico. You can see here we've got still maybe a depression or even a low-end tropical storm on Monday. Now, it doesn't put the L in the right place. That low is actually going to be right about here, but it keeps the atmosphere moister than what the GFS and the HWRF are showing. And as a result, this could at least try to survive a little bit as it tracks across the central and then northeastern Gulf of Mexico. At this point, there's a lot of dry air on the backside, but this has the look of a decaying tropical storm, which will be moving into the Big Bend early in the day on Wednesday. And the model run before was even stronger. You can see 991, but then 983 and then 987. So that's a higher end tropical storm. And this may be a little extreme for what eventually happens, but you can see we have to at least give it some credence, as there is some potential for that. Here's a look at the wind field from the HAVS model. And you can see here some stronger winds, mainly off the coast of Belize, then much weaker. But here we go again. It's going to try to regenerate on Monday night, Tuesday morning as it tracks up into the central Gulf and then northeastern Gulf of Mexico. And we see some wind potential over 50 miles per hour, maybe even low 60s with our wind gusts as it comes in here. And you can see even north of Clearwater, the potential for wind gusts at the coast to get over 50 miles per hour. So it's possible we get a late season tropical storm strike, but a lot of our models are still struggling with how that's going to play out. Rainfall, incredibly high here, 30 inches, maybe up to 35 is what I saw on the advisory here that just came out from the Hurricane Center. That's just incredible. We're talking 75 centimeters of rain. A lot of that's already fallen, but it will continue up through the weekend and then into about the 18th. So this goes through Monday morning. Where the area is more uncertain is Belize and Quintana Roo. Right now, predictions are for 8 to 12 inches of rain, 20 to 30 centimeters, 200 to 300 millimeters. But there's more uncertainty depending on the speed of this system. There could be certainly more. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, on the Gulf Coast, we are going to see some heavy rain, partially from the remains of Sara and partially from an approaching front. You'll see, in general, the Weather Prediction Center has 1 to 2 inches of rain for the central Gulf Coast states. Locally, more than 2, though, in parts of southern Alabama, Baldwin County, for example. And 1 to 2 across the Panhandle as well. For Florida and for southern Georgia here, you can see, generally speaking, not a huge rainmaker. It's going to be moving so quickly that most of the peninsula avoids getting more than an inch of rain. Now, the Panhandle could see more than an inch. Southwest Georgia could see more than an inch. But the farther north and east you get, the lower those totals are going to end up being. As far as severe weather, lightning, we do have to keep an eye on it Tuesday. From our cold front that moves in, Louisiana and Mississippi could be kind of active here Tuesday and then Wednesday across parts of Florida. And I'll show you Florida here in just a minute here. This is Tuesday afternoon. This is Tuesday evening. And you can see still some possibilities for a few stronger storms Wednesday morning over central Florida and Wednesday afternoon across South Florida. Then this heads into Bahamas and weakens Thursday morning. So that's really it for the Atlantic. I hope we're going to be finished talking about this by Wednesday. I don't know about you. I need a break. It's been a busy season. It's not been as bad as it could have been, but a lot of impact storms and a lot of damage, especially in Florida and in the southeast and parts of Texas as well. So let's take a look at areas that have gotten it even worse in Florida. That would be the Western Pacific. We've got another major typhoon heading towards portions of central and northern Philippines. Yet another Philippines typhoon here. Winds are 125 miles per hour. We got hit in the northern Philippines yesterday, and the remains of that are weakening as they approach Taiwan from the southwest. Taiwan doesn't need the rain, but here we go. We've got this tropical storm still moving in, and you can see it on radar. Very heavy rain over the southern portion of the island. That was with Usagi. The next one, Manyi, is a lot more concerning here. You can see the donut shape here, very well-defined system. Winds are approaching 130 miles per hour. It's going to continue northwest. It should weaken and come off its peak by the time this makes landfall, but it will still be an impactful storm system. Thought I had that loaded, I guess not. But you can see here on the water vapor, a well-defined system here. It doesn't care that there were storms in front of it. The water's still warm enough to support more storms, but I think this is going to be the last big one. At least I really hope so. So that's where we are. You can see it'll weaken after it hits Luzon and the remains go towards Vietnam. And here's the forecast on intensity up to Category 4 here overnight tonight into tomorrow, and then it drops off as it's approaching land. Let's look at the United States, and quite a storm cranking up here off of the southeast coast. You can see here we still have some strong winds and cloud cover across the Outer Banks, some rough surf there expected, but that will improve here tonight. Here's Bermuda. You all in Bermuda are going to get some stronger winds out of the southwest, some locally heavier thunderstorms. We also have low pressure across Atlantic Canada. That is splashing some moisture back all the way into eastern and northern portions of Maine. We're going to see some lingering cloud cover in the Midwest. as there's a bit of a trough that moves through here, but much nicer across this portion of the country. High pressure is in control. It's going to stay pretty warm this weekend across Texas. And then our eyes shift to the next system. You can see it beginning to spin up over Nevada and Utah, and that is going to move into Texas and the south here at the end of the weekend into next week. That's what's going to be what drives Sara here, what's left of her next week. Here's a GFS model. I'll show you that next storm system. It doesn't look like much just yet, but take a look at Sunday afternoon and Sunday night. We're talking snow in the mountains of Mexico. We're talking very heavy rain and likely severe weather across West Texas, eastern New Mexico, and southern Oklahoma. And then there's another system moving into the northwest, a bit of an atmospheric river here with heavy mountain snow, chillier temperatures, while the central U.S. will have some unsettled weather here, to say the least, Tuesday into Wednesday. Take a look at this upper low that drops down into the Smokies region on Thursday next week. So in 6 days, we're going to switch over to some heavy snow in some of the higher elevations, lake effect snow, and strong winds potentially out of the storm around the eastern Great Lakes for Thursday into early Friday. Much chillier next weekend for sure, although the west should be milder. We'll see another storm in the northwest. Looking ahead to Thanksgiving, right now we don't see any extreme issues, but we're going to have to track a couple of storms, one down here, one up in here. If these two try to merge, we may be in for some interesting weather across this area, but again, models remain inconsistent on how that's going to play out, so we'll just have to keep an eye on it for the time being. The European model here gives you another perspective of these storm tracks. You can see it's going to be active early next week across the plains. Then it turns quite a bit colder. It cranks the system up across the eastern Great Lakes, kicks it out by the weekend. We'll have some snow over parts of Maine, northern New England, and parts of Canada here through the weekend. It's got a more robust system crossing the Great Lakes before Thanksgiving, but it doesn't link up with the southern system that moves through here. It'll be chilly, but we're not expecting this to link up on the European. Now, the Canadian model has some concerns for us next weekend. And it's just one model, so we'll have to see how it works. Big storm here in the central United States, Monday into Tuesday, followed by much colder weather. And then you can see the Canadian transfers this to the coast and forms sort of a nor'easter here by Wednesday night, Thursday morning of next week. 971 millibar. Low pressure with massive amounts of rain battering New Jersey, New York, and portions of southern New England, if correct here. And this reminds us of last winter. Now, we need the rain here, but this is going to be a little bit too extreme if this is correct. Again, I don't know if it's going to play out exactly this way, but this would be pretty severe here. I would be planning for potential problems next Thursday if this is correct. You can see there'll be colder air that wraps in with heavy mountain snow behind this system. And then as we head into the week leading up to Thanksgiving, things are going to improve as we have quieter weather to begin that week. So we do have severe weather chances on Sunday across West Texas, and this could extend into southwestern Oklahoma and all the way towards the Metroplex, San Antonio, and Austin, mainly at night for Sunday. And then Monday, we continue to have a threat for severe weather, including a few tornadoes across north central Texas, big sky country here, and all the way up into southern portions of Oklahoma. Finally, let's look at snow prospects. Again, this is the ensemble, so it goes far out and tries to give us a glimpse at the future, but it's probably not going to get all the details correct. Lots of snow across the interior of the Northwest. We're going to see cold air coming down into central Canada. The prairies will be active. And we're going to see heavy snow across the mountains of the east, even all the way into North Carolina. We'll have snow here later next week in the ski areas. As we get to the weekend, it piles up in the lake belts here. We may see over a foot of snow in some of these areas here next weekend. As we go into the week of Thanksgiving, there is a gradual push southward here, but overall, it should still be relatively tranquil across the Northeast, especially the South, and for the Southern Plains. We will see the heaviest amounts over the Northwest and over Eastern Canada and across the Northern Prairies as well. But we may be heading into some bigger changes heading into December, and we'll take a look at those once the tropics begin to wind down. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. I will try to be back on here probably Sunday morning, if necessary. If this storm strengthens faster, I may try to get a video in tomorrow, but I got a lot going on. But I'll keep you all posted on any changes here. Just keep it tuned here for the latest. As always, I appreciate your time. I thank you, and I want to give all the honor and glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who gives me strength and gives me hope. Revelation 21, NIV, a new heaven and a new earth. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. Look, oh, and I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. He who was seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Then he said, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. He said to me, it is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega and the beginning and the end. To the thirsty, I will give water without cost from the spring of the water of life. Those who are victorious will inherit all this, and I will be their God, and they will be my children. And the reason I am so excited and hopeful is that Jesus is coming again, and all of sin will be wiped away. But you have to make a choice to become a believer if you want to be there without that sin, if you want to have no more tears, if you want to live eternally or in the new heaven and new earth. As believers in Jesus Christ who have made that sacrifice, will be resurrected to live in a renewed and perfect world. And that is described in the book of Revelation, where there's going to be no more death, sorrow, or pain. So all you have to do is be faithful to God, to be part of this new creation, and God will provide for you. And that is the good news I wanted to share with you this afternoon. So I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll catch you again soon. God bless you.